Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mina, and today's video is going to be one that I am very excited for. Today we are going to be reading, well, I guess this week, not today, just today, you know. This week we're going to be reading some of my most highly anticipated books of this entire year. I have 5 books that I am so excited to get to in this video. These releases have been on my mind since the beginning of this year. Matter of fact, since they were announced. So, I'm so excited. I feel like this is going to be a video of just a bunch of like 5-star reads one after another. I am so excited. I am so ready. I am so prepared to have some of the best reading time of my entire life. The first book that we're starting with is Powerful by Lauren Roberts, and this is a novella. Basically, this is about the friend of Peyton from Powerless. If you know what happens to Adina in Powerless, then you would know how devastating it is to be reading about Adina in a book of her own. I'm so excited. This is a novella. This is basically 200 pages-ish. If that, 220 pages. I am so excited to read about Adina, and I'm so glad to be back in the Powerless world. I hope this shows at least some glimpses of Peyton and Kai, because I would love to read more about them. Without further rambling, let's read the best books that I will probably read all year. That might be controversial to say, but I said it. I'm 104 pages in, so this is how much I've read, and this is how much I have left. I believe this is like almost halfway. I am enjoying myself so much. I love Adina. She is one of the cutest characters I have ever read about. She is so adorable that it's actually painful to read about, because you know what happens to her if you've read Powerless, and it's so heartbreaking and so heart-wrenching and so hard to read about, because she's this bubbly, cute, adorable girl, and we follow her story from when Peyton gets left. The first chapter is basically them 5 years ago when she first meets Peyton and they become friends, and then we follow her story after Peyton leaves to go to the trials after saving Prince Kai, and we just follow her story. And basically she meets this guy, his name is Mac, and he asks her to make him an Imperial's costume so he can go into the palace, because he's trying to save one of the contestants from the first book. It's so painful. It's so painful to read, because you know what's going to happen to her, and it's so hard to actually get to know her and then go through everything that she's gonna go through. I think I'm getting really attached to Adina and Mac, and I really like their chemistry together. It's so much fun to read about them, because Lauren Roberts is so good at creating tension and dialogue that's so good. Like, we had a scene where he basically goes and beats up these guys for like scaring her shitless, and like we have this scene where she goes to him and she's like, I didn't know where else I can go, and he basically saves her, and he is something else. I don't like the fact that he calls her hun. I wish he would call her anything else, but he calls her hun and honey, which I guess is fine, because her thing is that she likes sticky honey buns. I'm really enjoying myself with this book. It's really fun. It's really fun to be back in the Powerless world. Lauren Roberts is that girl when it comes to creating these scenes that you're dying over. Like the scene when she comes crying to Mac and she's like, I didn't know where else to go, and he goes and beats up the guys that scared her, and he teaches her how to fight, which I always love a good fighting scene, because you know the men always end up touching the main character's waist, and they're like, oh, your waist or your hips have to like turn. I eat it up every time, and I ate it up in this one as well. I'm going to sit here and I'm probably going to finish it in one go and finish it today, because it's very easy to read. The pages are super small, so there's not a lot of writing in here. For that reason, I think it would be very easy for me to finish it within the next hour, if not the next 45 minutes. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to finish this book, and then I'll tell you my thoughts about it. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying myself and reading about Adina and reading about Mac, and I think their chemistry is so good. finished Powerful by Lauren Roberts. My God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This book destroyed me. I gave it 4.5 stars because it's too short. I would have loved to read more. I think they didn't get enough time and I wish they had gotten more time. All I wanted for them was more time. This book was done beautifully. This book was done wonderfully. I commend Lauren Roberts for coming up with a story that is so heart-wrenching with just 200 pages. I had so much fun with this book and it tore my heart out of my chest, and I honestly feel like I'm going to cry thinking about Adina. I'm so excited to see where Reckless goes. I hope we get to see Mac interact with Peyton, and I hope we get to see him more because it would be such a loss and such a disappointment if we don't ever see him again after the end of this book. This book was so... I don't know what to say. This book is so sad. Read it at your own risk because I feel like I'm going to cry. It feels like my world has ended. And yeah, I enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. Definitely a great way to start off this video with. Oh, I hope no other book makes me cry. Oh God. I love Adina and I want her to be protected at all costs. That is the brightest star in the entire universe. If you think I look weird, yes I do. I have a... I look like Voldemort in that one movie. God, I hate it. I'm drying my hair. Today we are starting this book, which is How to End a Love Story by Yulin Kwang. And if you haven't heard of this book has literally been everywhere. Everyone and their mother has been talking about this book. This book, I think, is about this girl who has to work on a movie, on a script, on a book, something of that nature, some entertainment thing with her enemy. And he's her enemy because her sister died and he was involved. I'm not sure how. Not sure how they're gonna make it out of that, but it's an enemies to lovers, supposedly. Yulin Kwang has been working with Emily Henry. Then I trust this woman with my entire soul. No questions asked, no comments, concerns, complaints, nothing. I'm gonna start this book today and I'm gonna see how far I can get through it. This book is 368 pages, which is not a lot. Yeah. Oh, I guess it's a TV adaptation. They're working on a TV adaptation of something. Her and her enemy. And somehow, I think there's like a friends with benefits thing that happens, a situationship. I'm not really sure. The only things I know about this book is from what I've heard other people say about this book. I'm excited. I'm gonna pick it up and I will see you once I have some updates. I came back to you real quick. I literally just opened this book and I opened the very first page, and tell me why the acknowledgements. Look at this. Read the acknowledgement. Not this. No, not the first part. The second part. And this is not the acknowledgement. The dedication. Look at the dedication. Look at the second part of the dedication. Why does that say, for eldest daughters of immigrant parents, this is a love letter for you too? That's literally me. I am the eldest daughter of an immigrant family. I am first-gen immigrant. And so I am the target audience. What am I gonna, like, we're already off to a great start. That's it, period. This is for me. I'm the target audience. I am the demographic. So this better be good. This better be good. Don't dedicate it like that if it's not gonna be good. Okay. I am on page 54. Yay. This book is very conflicting. Very, very conflicting. I don't know how I feel about it because obviously the enemies part, like Helen's sister, who is the main character of this book, her sister dies in a car accident, which is kind of known to be a suicide. Like, her sister ran in front of the car and the car just happens to be the main guy in this book. His car is the one that her sister ran in front of, and her sister died, and obviously now they both have this one thing in common that they wish they didn't, and it's like horrendous because as a person with a sister who I love very, very dearly, reading about this is very conflicting. it's very conflicting. I don't know how to feel about it, because I can't imagine being put in Helen's shoes and being an older sister, losing my sister, and then feeling anything towards the guy that killed my sister other than hatred. Like, I know it's a complex story with complex characters, naturally so. I understand that. I just don't know how she's gonna weave that in. I don't know how Yulin Kwang is gonna make it feel like it's okay for the characters to have anything between them when there's this gigantic thing like taking up all their entire relationship. Like, it's if you have siblings, then you would know, like, it's a very big thing, especially if you're close with your sibling. Imagine losing your sibling, and then the person who was involved in their death you have to work with forever. I don't know if that's personal bias coming into it, and that's making me not really eat this up as much as I should. They do have some chemistry, but really in reality, putting myself in her shoes is just making me not even believe the chemistry or not even care for them together. I don't want her to be with him. I don't like him, even though he's obviously going through his own sort of grief to deal with what happened. Like, this girl jumped in front of his car, killed herself, and now he's the one to blame. He's going through his own thing when it comes to that night. But as a sibling, I just don't know how to feel about it. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know how to think about it. I don't know how they're gonna see each other as anything more than that night, you know? So I don't know how I feel about it. Like I said, I'm only 50 pages in, so there might be some room for improvement. Like, obviously there's this much left, you know, like there's 300 pages left of this book, so something could happen that might change my mind. But as of right now, I'm a little bit skeptical. The writing of this book is beautiful. There are some lines in here that I'm like, hold the phone, because Yulin Kwang knows what she's doing. It's doing what has to be done. You know, I'm in there and I'm eating it up, but the romance is the only thing that I'm on the edge about, so. I'm on page 234 out of 300 something. I have a little over 100 pages left, and I am, you know, like, I feel like no matter how much I talk about this book, it'll never like get across how much I'm enjoying this book. This is probably going to be a 5-star read. I'm enjoying myself so much with this book, even though it's so incredibly painful. This is one of the most painful stories that I've ever read, because you can see the characters going through their own sorts of grief. You see them struggling, and you see them going through all these things that they don't know how to get out of. They don't know how to navigate this thing that is between them. Grant and Helen are one of the most precious characters that I have ever read about. I understand why Emily Henry chose Yulin Kwang to be the screenwriter and the director, I believe, of Emily Henry's books, because honestly, this woman knows how to write a story. She knows how to write a story. She knows how to keep it interesting. The characters are so realistic. They remind me of Emily Henry characters because of how real they feel and how flawed and human they are, and they don't feel like words on paper. This book is very heavy. It deals with a lot of grief and a lot of like self-hatred, and the characters just feel like you can relate to them so well because they're so human. And like the eldest daughter in me to an immigrant family completely understands Helen, and it's one of the most fascinating things to read about a character that mirrors you so well in a story. And like, there's the scene where she's talking about her parents to Grant, and she's telling him like the people from outside of her family will never, or like who come from different families, will never understand what it's like to be in a family like hers. And I completely understand. It makes so much sense. And I relate to her so much, and I love her, and I love Grant, and I love their relationship and their chemistry. And it's so painful because you know that there's this thing kind of looming over them like a dark cloud, and you don't know when the other shoe is going to drop. Like, obviously this cannot be a full thing. It can't end well because obviously he's involved in her sister's death, and her parents will never approve of that. I don't think. At least my parents never would. And so it's very bittersweet to read about, because one second you're smiling and you're laughing with them and at what's going on between them and how well they get along and how much they like each other. And then you're like, oh my God, this cannot go anywhere. It has a soul of its own, and this book is definitely going to be one of the books that I think about a lot after I finish it. As of right now, it's definitely out of 5 stars. I cannot stop reading it, and when I do stop reading it, I can't stop thinking about it. I had to actually physically help, like, make myself put this book down so I don't end up finishing it all in one day, because I really want to take my time with it, because I'm really enjoying the characters and I'm really enjoying the setting and I'm enjoying the way that the story is told. I'm definitely going to miss it once I'm done with it, and I'm definitely going to buy my own copy once I'm done with this one, because this is a library copy. I don't see myself rereading this just because it's so, like, hurtful and deep, and I have to be in a very specific, like, state of mind for me to be able to read a book like this. But I'm enjoying myself so much, and I'm so glad I picked this up. I'm so glad I've heard a lot of people talk about it. If you're an immigrant, if you're in an immigrant family, if you're an eldest child, if you have siblings, then I think you would really, really enjoy this book. I don't think this is just for immigrant kids with siblings. I think this is for everybody, and there's something in it for everybody. It's hurting my heart, and I'm definitely going to cry when I finish it, I feel like. A little bit more, as you guys saw. This is how much I have left, which is ridiculous because I am not ready for this book to be over. The more I make it through this book, the more pained that I am. I really do find myself feeling so much for Helen and so much for Grant. When I first picked this book up, I was like, I don't know how Helen is gonna see him as anything more than what he did and what happened, but there is so much more depth to what's going on than just what you hear. And it's like, obviously you hear, oh, he was involved in the accident that took her sister's life, and you're gonna be like, oh, well, I don't know how you can make it through that and see anything more about him other than what he did. But that's why grief is so complicated. And I feel like if you're dealing with grief in any way of your own about anything, I think this book will hit you where it really hurts, because it talks about grief in such a realistic way. I found myself tearing up at some parts today. The yearning, the pining, the longing, and the fact that she is an immigrant daughter, an immigrant eldest child, it just hits close to me. And I think obviously I'm biased. I think it's an important story to tell about how grief can be so complicated, and a person can be more than just one thing or one incident or one circumstance in their life, that you can be so much more than just that one thing. The waterworks are getting ready, you know, like, it's there. It's raining and I'm about to finish a sad book. This is my bonsai tree, but anyways, this is happening. Am I about to cry like this rain? Find out next on Glee. You probably saw me. I did shed a few tears. I didn't ugly cry. And to be honest, I think that is because I was filming. Because had I not been filming, I feel like the tears would have started. This book is so painful. The ending, I'm hurting. And I feel like I'm going to cry once I stop filming. I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I'm gonna give it 5 stars because it deserves the 5 stars. I feel like we've reached a point where I'm like, this is as 5 stars as it's gonna get, you know? Cause like, it made me cry, it made me hurt, it made me sob, it made me yearn, it made me long, it made me, the angst in this is crazy. Grant, the man that you are. Helen, the woman that you are. There's so many scenes in here that just feel so real. There's so many scenes that are so impactful and so deep and so hurtful. I love Yulin Kwang from now on. This is an auto-buy author for me. auto-read author for me. Everything was real. It never felt like I was reading a story. It felt like I was with these real people, that I knew them, that I actually am in this world. I wasn't even planning on reading this book until I heard everybody and their mother talk about this book and their thoughts about this book. And that cemented my need to read it. And I'm so glad that it did, because without this book, then I would have been missing something so great. It's time to read my most anticipated read of the entire year. I'm so scared. You can't tell because I'm laughing, but this is nervous laughter, a nervous smile. We are doing it. This is my most anticipated read of the entire year, and we are doing it in this video. This is something that I've been looking forward to for the very longest time, before I even knew I was looking for it. I can't believe I'm about to read this, because I've been putting this off for 2 weeks. Ready? Because if you're a fangirl like me, it's signed. I'm gonna pass out. Yeah. So I have some tools, because I'm obviously gonna annotate the beauty that is Funny Story. I have my tabs. I know these look a little bit bright, but I feel like they match the aesthetic of the book because it looks a little bit bright. So these are the colors I'll be using. Yellow to go with the yellow, obviously. And yellow is because her shirt and his Crocs are yellow. This is the way that I think, so I'm just letting you know. And obviously, to underline the highlighted parts, I'm using this kind of orangish pen, because the yellow one that I have is like a neon yellow, and that's not what I want. That's not the vibe I'm looking for. Then obviously we have blue, which is the blue of the cover, and I figure we could use it with this blue, and if that's too dark, then with this blue. Not sure. Probably with the darker one, because that's the color of the book, but I don't know. And the blue pen. And these are the Zebra Mild Ink Mild Liners, the double-ended. So there's a pen on this side and a highlight tip on this side. Hopefully they're not out. I've had them for a very long time. Green to go with the green up here. The green goes with his pants, you know, and to underline that, we obviously have the green pen. Pink, which is a strange color, you're gonna tell me, because obviously the obvious choice to go for would be red, and that would be if I need like another color, but I don't think I'm gonna need 5 colors, so I picked pink because the dust jacket underneath is the same exact pink. And then pink pen to go with it, and then we have the pink mark. Obviously pink is for romance, like romantic parts. Green, I'm gonna go for spicy, if there's any spicy scenes. Yellow is usually for funny, like if there's any funny scenes. And then blue is for relatable. I'm working my way through annotating all of the Emily Henry books that I have. I've annotated Beach Read when I read it the first time, and I'm annotating this one, and then I'll have to have a reread of People We Meet on Vacation, Funny Story, and Beach Read, and Book Lovers, and I will need to underline those as well. So maybe I'll do that at some point. But for right now, up already. If you don't know what this book is about, because I forgot to tell you, I figure everybody loves Emily Henry as much as I do. This is about a girl who is engaged to this guy, and she set out to marry him, and he dumps her for his childhood best friend, I guess, and she moves in with the fiance, I believe, of the girl that her fiance dumped her for, like the best friend, the childhood best friend. The guy, Miles, was engaged to that girl, I think, or was dating her, and she leaves him for the girl's fiance, and so they pretend to fake date to like make the
their ex is jealous, I think. The minute that I started reading this book, reading an Emily Henry book always feels like coming home for me. I don't know why. Her unique sense of like describing a scene and opening a book is so her, and I love it. And I wish I was wearing my Written by Emily Henry sweater right now, but it's too hot for me to be wearing it. I already feel so like happy to be back in a world that she created, because she always creates the best books.
Pretty tassel. It matches the book, and then the actual bookmark is pink, so it matches the pink, and then the tassel is white, so it matches the spine. Goodbye. I love when things match. I am 70 pages in. I stopped in the middle of a chapter yesterday because I thought I was going to read a little bit more later in the night, and then I didn't end up doing that. I did start annotating, and I actually did some arts and crafts as well. I put some stars around the title with lash glue, and then yeah, these are the tabs and what they mean. I love it. I'm eating it up. I love it. I'm eating it up. I am going to read a little bit more, probably for the rest of the day, because I really want to get further into this book. Like, this is criminal. I wanted to read more. I just didn't have the time. I'm going to get me a Waterloo, and then I'm going to sit here and I'm going to read until I don't have the time to anymore. I'm officially 54% in. What I didn't know was that this book apparently is 400 pages, according to Goodreads, but what I'm seeing here is that it's 384 pages. I'm taking my time with it. These are the annotations so far. I don't know if you can see the colors of them, but the yellow ones are the funny ones. The blue ones are the relatable and the quotes that I would like to see or read again. And then the pink ones are romance. And the green one, the long green one, is spice. She has such a way with characters and with dialogue and with tension and with chemistry. I love Daphne and I love Miles. He is not my favorite of the Emily Henry men, but he's definitely not my least favorite, and I think he's so cute. This book is not my favorite of Emily Henry's work by any means. My favorite will always remain Beach Read because of Gus and how much I related to that book, and I think in each book of Emily Henry's, you find yourself relating to one of them more than the other ones, I feel like. And for me, that's Beach Read. And so I love Beach Read. And then probably Book Lovers will always be my top two. And then the rest kind of rotate. Happy Place is pretty up there. I think those might be my top three. But this is still a 5-star so far. I'm really enjoying it. It's making me laugh a lot. I love everything about this book. I love the fake dating. I love the spice scene. I love the way that there's so much yearning and pining and like, oh, we really shouldn't do this because we're roommates, but also they really want each other, and he helps to push her out of her comfort zone. I think everybody can find something to relate to. In all of Emily Henry's books, it's not just romance. There's so much more interwoven in the story to where it feels like it's not just a romance novel. It feels like so much more. I did see that a lot of people were disappointed by it and were having like, you know, like they were giving it 3 stars and whatnot, but personally, I'm still enjoying it as much as I enjoyed all the other Emily Henry works, and I'm loving it, and it's not disappointing. It's not letting me down. It's not my favorite, like I said, of all of her works, but it's definitely still fun and still a good time, and I'm still really enjoying myself reading it to the point where I do still think that I would probably give it 5 stars once I'm done. I'm really taking my time with it because obviously we don't know when the next Emily Henry book is going to come out, so this is me kind of pacing myself so I don't end up finishing it in one day like I really want to, because this is so easily bingeable. I'm loving it, and that's all you need to know.
as you guys saw, have been reading. Funny story, I almost called this Happy Place, I don't know why. I've been reading Funny Story all morning, and I am now this far in. I have like 80 pages, I want to say. 60, 70 pages. 80 pages-ish. I'm on page 301, and this book is 380 something. I don't know why everybody kept saying that they didn't understand why Miles was the love interest in this book, because when you first meet him, he's technically like the guy that the main lead would leave to go be with someone else. But I love him. I love him. He is so genuine and so like true to who he is, and he sees Daphne for who she is. And I think that's the part that I love the most, is that he's always there for her, and he always validates the way that she's feeling when she feels like she's crazy and that nobody else feels the way that she does. He makes her feel understood, less alone. And I think he also helps her see the fun parts in herself and see the good parts in herself that she's too blind to see. And I think she helps him in the same way, to where she gives him the validation that he's been seeking. Obviously, it's not good to seek external validation, but I think in this way it's necessary. I am going to miss this book when I finish it. I'm really, really eating it up. I'm enjoying my time with it. I'm going to be so sad when I'm done with it. This has been my like most anticipated book of the entire year, and I can't wait for the day that we have another Emily Henry book out. But for right now, I'm really, really juicing my time with this book. I love Emily Henry for writing such real and honest and genuine characters that you feel so attached to, and that feels so real and so much more than words on paper. And I'm going to pick it up one last time tomorrow. Hit that.
It's a sad day, y'all. So it's not really that sad of a day, but it is. I have officially finished Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I am so okay. This one I kind of teared up a little bit. I had a moment where I really was going to cry, except that I couldn't because I was at my office at work, and also I had makeup on. And if I had cried at the office, then it would have been real bad for me, and I would have looked like a mess for the entirety of the day, because I finished this literally the minute that I got to the office. I pulled it out of my bag and I finished it. This book actually is my 100th book of the year. I met my Goodreads reading goal, which was 100 books, by reading this book, and this book was my 100th book of the year, and I am so glad that it is, because this book it has my heart. I love this book. I think this might be my 4th favorite Emily Henry book. I love Daphne and I love Miles, and I love how Emily Henry has such a way and where she makes you so attached to the characters to where you feel like they're your friends. And then once you're done with the story, you're like, what now? I'm never gonna get to know what they're doing outside of this book now. With all of Emily Henry's works, I feel like her works are more of a relatable book for me rather than just a romance, because you have these characters that are dealing with such big life changes, like whether it's family problems or like they don't know what they're doing with their job, or obviously with Daphne, she just got broken up with and she's supposed to get married in a week and she doesn't know what to do, where to stay. The characters always feel so realistic and so human, and it feels like you can always find bits and pieces of yourself and the people you love in Emily Henry characters. This book is definitely my favorite read of the entire year. She didn't let me down. Queen has always delivered, and she will continue to deliver and eat and leave no crumbs. She is her. She is the queen of my heart. I love her. I would literally read if she just wrote like a phone number on a napkin. I would read it. I don't even care. I love her. I love her works. I cannot say enough good things about this book. I definitely recommend you read it and give it a chance yourself, because it's so, her works are so loved for very, very good reasons. She is one of the best authors out there. She makes her characters feel real and human and flawed. I'm sure if I were to ever meet Emily Henry in person, I would just collapse. Like, my heart would actually collapse. I would not be able to breathe. 5 out of 5 stars if you couldn't tell. Pick it up, girl. It's worthy of the praise that it's getting. I promise you. And if not this, then pick up beach read. I will forever slip in beach read when I can. The next book I'm going to be reading is King of Sloth by Ana Huang. Ana Huang. In my head, I say Ana, so Ana Huang. This book is in the series called Kings of Sin by Ana Huang, and it is one of my favorites of all time. I'm so excited for this. This is about Sloane, I believe, and Xavier. which I am so excited for. I enjoy the way she crafts a story, and this is a very spicy romance, but there's a lot of different parts and the characters have a lot of life and a lot of depth, and I always enjoy her stories and feel like something is missing when I go for too long of a period without reading something that's set in this universe. I remember like marathoning the Twisted series and then getting into this one right afterwards because I just enjoyed her writing so much that I absolutely could not imagine not reading any more of her works. So I have been so excited for this book. This is definitely one of my most anticipated books of the year. I'm so excited. I'll start it and then I'll come back to you when I have an update. I'm so excited. I cannot believe I'm holding this in my hands. I'm so freaking excited. You do not understand. Officially halfway through, I want to say. I am 246 pages in, so almost 250 pages in, and this book is 438 pages. So yeah, technically I am like halfway through in this book. And I am so, I am flying through this. I did not expect myself to fly through it as much as I am and as fast as I am, but I am. This reads very quickly. I forget that I'm reading half of the time when I'm reading. I don't know why that is. I think because I'm really happy to be back in this world and be back with the Kings of Sin. And oh my god, we had a appearance from some of the characters from the Twisted series in here, and oh my god, I love Xavier and I love Sloane and I love the story and I love Anna Huang and I love her writing and I'm enjoying the story so much. I don't think this is gonna be my favorite, which now that I think on it, it was probably Dominic and Alessandra, because I loved that book so much. I loved it. That's the only book that really, that's the book in the series where I got to and I was like, yeah, I have to finish with the rest of the series. I cannot just do a one and done. You have all these people woven into the story that you've met in different books and that you love from different books and different series. And I just, they mentioned so many couples from the Twisted series in here, and it's like such a beautiful nod. And I also put together that her next book, which is called The Striker, is about a soccer player, which is also in this book because they kept mentioning him. His name is Asher, and Sloane kind of reps him because she's a PR agent that has her own business, and she is Xavier's PR person, like the person in charge of that. She also reps Asher, and I was like, why do they keep mentioning Asher? Why do we care this much about a football player? And then it turns out it's because The Striker is his book, and I'm so excited because I love me a good football story, soccer for Americans. But yeah, I am so happy to be back in this world, so happy to be reading it. It reads so quickly. I'm enjoying my time with it. This is just, I'm having the best time ever with this video and all the books that I've read so far for this video because they've just been so fun and so happy. And I'm just so happy to be back in these worlds that I absolutely adore. I am eating this book up. I love her, and I love Xavier, and I love Sloane, and I love Penny, and I'm just so freaking happy to be back in this world. officially finished King of Sloth by Anna Huang, and I loved this book so much. I gave it 4.25 stars, I want to say. This is definitely not my favorite in all of the Kings of Sin series. I think that will always be either King of Wrath or King of Greed. Probably King of Greed being up there, because now that I think back at it, Alessandra and Dominic are just those people. This is not to say that this is like my least favorite. I think they're all pretty high ranked because I really enjoyed them. I think I enjoy them more than I enjoyed the Twisted series, which is, I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion. I just think these are better done, at least in my opinion. So 4.25 stars. I am so glad that I finally got to read this, and I'm so looking forward to the next books in this series. I will always have these books as my most anticipated reads of the year because these are just always so exciting when they come out, and they make me so excited to read. I read this very quickly, even though it's an almost 500-page book, I want to say. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm so glad that I finally got to pick it up because I have been waiting for it for a very long time, and I just loved it. Ate it up like I usually do with every Anna Huang book ever, really, to be honest. And I'm so looking forward to the Striker as well. You to the next read of this video because I actually just picked it up the minute that I got it because I could not wait. So this is one of my most anticipated releases of this year. This is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and this is apparently so different from all of her other books. At least it was marketed as that. So yeah, this was definitely on my radar of the books that I really wanted to get to this year because I love Ali Hazelwood. I've read every single one of her books that she's released other than the novellas, and I have liked most of them. And I just recently read Bride, which I absolutely adored. I did not think that she would do it justice, but she absolutely ate it up, and I ate it up. I ate that book up like nobody's business. And I really had the best time reading that book, and so I was really excited when I found out that she was going to be releasing this one this year. And I have officially started it actually today, and I am 168 pages in, which is a little less than halfway, it seems. I don't know if there's anything in the back that's like, look into the next book or something like that. I don't know how I feel about this one. If you don't know what this book is about, I don't know how to describe it to you. It is about something to do with STEM. And out of all the Ali Hazelwood books, I think this one and Love on the Brain have made me feel the stupidest because I don't understand what they're talking about. I don't. I think her research is so interesting. I just don't know half of the time what she's talking about. It's kind of boring me, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like 170 pages in almost, and I am so bored. It took everything out of me not to DNF it, and it's so disappointing because I really enjoyed Bride. Bride was one of my favorite books of the year so far, and the minute that I finished it, I wanted to reread it. This one is not having the same treatment. I don't know why. It's so hard to get into. I don't know. I really wanted to DNF it for the first 100 pages. The romance in here is very different from Ali's other romances, and I don't know how to describe it. It feels very insta-lusty, but it makes sense for the premise of the book. But at the same time, I don't like insta-lust. That is the like one trope that I don't really gravitate towards. I usually end up DNFing a book if it has insta-lust. Some of the lines in here, I'm like, girl, what how did this pass? How did this get published? Because honestly, what is happening? You just have to go into it not expecting anything. I don't know why I was expecting so much. Maybe because I loved Bride so much that I was like, oh, this one will be different too, because Bride was very much different from the rest of her novels, that I thought because this one would be different as well, that I would love it as well, but I'm not loving it. It's not working out for me. I don't know. I'm not gonna DNF it. I will finish it. I just don't know how I'm gonna feel about it or how I'm gonna rate it. This might be my least favorite Ali Hazelwood book, which is such a disappointment because I love the cover and I love like just the look and the aesthetic of it, and I just everything about it. Like shiny cover, and then there's art on the inside. It's kind of like meh for me right now. I will let you know once I read a little bit more. Maybe I'll like it a little bit more, but as of right now, very meh. Very disappointed. I hope sincerely with all of my heart that it picks up from here, because if not, this is going to be the biggest disappointment of the year. Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I don't know how to feel about this book. I think I'm gonna stick between a 3.75 stars and 4 stars. It was very different from everything else she's ever written. Different in the most different way possible. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how to rate it because I don't know if I liked it or didn't like it. I think if you go into it not expecting much, then maybe you might like it. There's a lot of science in here and there's a lot of like STEM talk in here that I don't understand, and so therefore I'm confused a lot of the time while reading this book, and I really wanted to DNF it for the first 100 pages because it was really boring, and I have never felt that way about an Ali Hazelwood book before. I don't know if it was because I read Bride before this like a month ago and I really loved it. I loved Bride. I gave it 5 stars, and so I don't know if that's the reason why I'm so disappointed in this one, but it's not bad. It's different. If you go into it expecting something like every other Ali Hazelwood book, I don't think you will find that here. Very spicy, and the spice is very different from everything else she's ever written as well, and I'm glad she's going into different avenues, trying different premises and different characters and different things. Don't know if it worked with this one, but I'm glad I read it. We have read some of my most anticipated reads of this year so far. This is the middle of the year as I'm filming this. We are literally at the end of June. So far, these are the books that I have been so excited for this year. If you want me to do a part 2 where I read the ones I'm most excited for the second half of the year, then let me know down below, and let me know by clicking the thumbs up button or leaving a comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I think in this video we've read 5, and all 5 of them were very different from each other. We read How to End a Love Story, which I absolutely adored. We read Powerful, King of Sloth, The Love of My Life, Funny Story, and Not in Love. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if they have been your favorite. Personally, my favorite will always and forever be Funny Story by Emily Henry. I loved this book. I still think about this book daily, and I think I'm going to do a reread of it because I feel like I didn't get enough of it. I didn't get what I need to get out of it yet, and so I feel like I'm going to do a reread of it pretty soon. My favorite out of all the books that I've read in this video, but I also really adored How to End a Love Story because that one really spoke to my heart and made me cry. These are the top 5 of the first half of the year. Let me know if you want me to do the top 5 of the second half of the year. I had so much fun doing this video, and I love looking forward to new books. I feel like it gives me something to look forward to, something to live for. Not to be morbid or anything, but you know, yeah, if I were to recommend, my recommendations from this video is definitely How to End a Love Story and Funny Story and Powerful if you love it. Girl, this video has lasted over a couple of months at this point, and so it feels very strange to be finally ending it. I am very happy with everything I've read for this video, and I think they were very different from each other and very new, and I am glad that I broadened my horizon by reading something like Not in Love, because that one was definitely different from a lot of the romance novels that I read. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, that means the world to me. I appreciate it very much. I hope you have the very best day. Treat yourself to something nice, and I'll see you guys again next week with another video. Goodbye!